Okay.
By the two dots. Mציאה lo yeshava. Someone who finds a lost object and he returns it to somebody, and then the guy says, "Oh, you owe me. You only returned half of what I lost, and you stole the other half, or I want to know what happened to the other half." And the guy, usually you should make a shavua, you should make an oath. In this case, you don't have to make an oath. If you admit to part of his claim, he has a claim against you of 100, and you only return to him 50, so it's clear it's mitzvah mixas. You're admitting to part of the claim. Because we want people to return lost objects, because it's not like, we're not talking about a regular claim. This is a guy who, out of the goodness of his heart, he announced that he had found something. We don't make him make an oath. There's no oath involved over here. So the Gemara says like this. Omer Rabbi Yitzchak, Shnei Kisin Kshurin Motzosali. Let's say the guy says, this is a pastor, Rabbi Yitzchak says. Let's say the guy says, Shnei Kisin Kshurin Motzosali, you found to me 2 bags which were tied together, or Shnei Shvarim Kshurin Motzosali, there was 2 oxen that were tied together, and then the guy answers, no, there was only one. In an ishba. He doesn't make an oath. Oh, no, I skipped. I'm sorry. He says, you found 2 bags that were tied for me of money. And he says, no, I only found one. Nishba, he does have to make an oath. In such a case, he does have to make an oath. But if you say, he says, you found 2 oxen that were tied together, and he says, no, I only found one. He's not going to make an oath. What's the difference? By oxen, we could say that they separate from each other. So it's not a clear taina. It's not a body. It has to be a taina as a body. It has to be sure, for sure. If there's a body, and it's mitzvah mixas, you will make an oath by a shvua. Mitzvah mixas, you have to make an oath. It's only if it's tainas shema, because he says there was 2 oxen tied together, and he says I only found one. It could be they separated because oxen could move. Even though it's also possible that somebody removed the bags, that's obviously much less likely. Okay, what if he says, you found 2 oxen tied together. He says that he's moida that he found the 2 oxen. But he says, I already returned one of them to you. This is the second one that I'm returning to you. Then again, you have to make the shvua because it's tainas body. He's moida in the tiny. He says it's true that I found 2. I just returned 1. So this is also tainas body. So frag the Gemara, the obvious question, what happened to our Mishnah? The Mishnah says that if you find a lost object, you don't have to make an oath. Here he's saying, like, he's bringing like the regular dinim of shvua, that if it's tainas body, so the guy is a clear taina, you do have to make a shvua. So why all of a sudden is Rav Yitzchak saying, how does it fit with the Mishnah? How does it fit with the Mishnah? The Mishnah says you don't have to make a shavua for mציאה for someone who finds a lost object, and he's saying you do have to as long as it's tainas body. The Gemara answers in an Aleph Amud Beis. We're turning the page in an Aleph Amud Beis. He holds like a different opinion. Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov. He holds like Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov. Titania Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov. That in a case where there's tainas body, you're going to have to make a shvua. Rashi says if it's tainas body, it's not considered meishav aveda anymore. I mean, theoretically, he didn't know the guy found it. Fact is, because it's tainas body, it's no longer considered like meishav aveda, only if it's tainas shema. Because he says like this, what does that even mean? How can you make an oath in your own taina? Your father, in other words, he tells somebody who, it's a Yerusha, he says, your father actually had entrusted in my hands a money, and I paid back part of it. So the guy didn't know to make the taina. The son of the father didn't know about this whole loan. somebody else is coming over to him out of the goodness of his heart. I mean, because of Yashrus, not goodness of his heart. He's doing the right thing. But he says he paid him part of it. So do you have to make a shavua? This is a shavua because he's the one creating the taina, but he's also saying that he paid part of it. So he's made a mixas on his own taina. He himself was the one who said he owed the money. He also said that he paid half. So we don't say, you should say migoi. Normally you have something called migoi. Migoi, do you have a boy shosik? If he wanted to, he could have been quiet. So he shouldn't have to make a shavua. So Zok there, he says you have to make a shavua. Migoi will help you for money, but I don't know if it'll help you for shavua. I'm not sure. I'm not sure how to classify this. The Chum say it's potter. So we see clearly there's two shittas. If there's tainas bari, those men Yaakov holds, even if it's tainas atzma, even if it's you yourself who said it, you're still gonna have to make a shavua. And you said you paid back part of it. Kol shekain, in the case where the guy comes over to you and he says he has a lost object, and you're telling that it was more, and he says he only found kach v'kach. Of course, he's going to have to make a shavua. So, Perek the Gemara, the obvious question, Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov, what about tikkun olam? People won't want to return lost objects. What about that klal? Amarav v'toynei koton. Rav says, only if it's toynei koton. The leniency is only if toynei koton. If it's a minor who's giving him, putting the claim, then he doesn't have to make a shvuah. But if it's a gadol, you're going to have to. So how are we answering the question? I'm not sure. The way Rashi explains the question, what about the problem of people not returning the lost object? So I don't know how that. I don't know. Based on Rashi's mahalach, I don't understand how the Gemara is answering it. Perek the Gemara, koton midah b'shashi is beisayvi. No matter what, a koton doesn't have. There's no mashot in anyone. Even if we're not talking about a lost object, Tainus koton does not require you to make a shvuah, make an oath. It says in the Mishnah, you don't have to make an oath if somebody's a chereshet to b'koton, because they don't have das. So the Gemara answers, my koton gadol, he's a gadol, but my koton koton got milidov koton. He's a gadol, but because it's not his own affairs, it was his father's affairs. So even Tainus body, you're going to be potter from the shvuah. So now the Gemara asks, if so, if you're going to say we're talking about the toynei gadol who's a koton legab miliyod aviv. Why do you have to say? Why does he say tanis atzmai? Tanis achedim. Says the Gemara tanis achedim by dos atzmai. Tanis achedim. Let's say you have a gadol who's being toyin the miliyod aviv, but a dos atzmai he was moided that it's ms, that it's true what you're being toyin, but still I paid part of it. That's considered like tanis atzmai. It's the same thing. Tanis achedim by dos atzmai. Everything is considered. Every taina is a person being toyin, and you're being mitzvah. It makes us. So why is it called tainus atzmai? If you're going to say that it's even a gadol, a person who's come of age, have reached maturity in the matters of his father. If you're going to say we're talking about gadol b'midav, if it's considered like a gadol, it's a koton. It's like a koton. So why does he have to say tainus atzmai? He should say tainus achedim. But in the case of someone who's a gadol in the matters of his father, rather, Machlokes is about the concept of mitzvah mixas in general. So we're talking about really toynei koton. If he's a koton, how could you make a shvuah? This that we say in Yishboin b'tainus koton. This that we say there's no shvuah. The koton makes a taina. That's only if. It's only if it's like a full shvuah and a full kfira. That he shvuah sapikodim, for example. It says that I gave you kach v'kach. I gave you as a deposit, and he denies it. So that's shvuah sapikodim. But if it's Moida b'mixas, you're not going to make a Shavua if it's Shavuos Apikotin. But if it's Moida b'mixas, if he's Moida in part of it, then there's a machlokes if a kotin can make you do Shavuos Moida b'mixas. Rabbi explains like this. Why does Teda say that someone who's Moida b'mixas has to make an oath? Chazak and other maids panav b'fnei bal chayva. Chazak is a person doesn't want to have the chutzpah to deny entirely the bal chayv. He wants to deny all of it. The reason why he's not denying all of it is because he's not going to have the chutzpah to deny all of the debt. He really wants to admit the whole thing. This that he's not admitting it is he's trying to pay little by little to push him away now because he doesn't have all the money, so he's only admitting to half it now. It's called being malamet heter. Person say, I'll pay you little by little. He's thinking, until I get the money, and I'll pay him. It says you should put a shavu on him in order for him to be made in the whole thing. Yaakov says it doesn't matter him or his son. You're not going to have the chutzpah. So it's not considered meishav avedo. Even if we're talking about a son, even if we're talking about a son having a taina, you're not going to want to have the chutzpah in front of your son also. So therefore, you're going to have to make the oath no matter what. But abundant sabre, only by him he's not going to have the chutzpah. But the son, he's willing to have the chutzpah. Because he's not having the chutzpah, he's considered meishav aved. He's considered like a meishav aved because he's admitting whatever he's admitting. It's admitting. It's not that he's scared to deny the whole thing. We don't assume that a person's scared to deny the whole thing. He'll be willing to deny the whole thing. In fact, he's not denying the whole thing. It's considered like meishav aved, and he'll be potter. Only problem is, how is this going to answer for the other, for Rabbi Yitzchak? How does this fit for Rabbi Yitzchak? Mamash is talking about a lost item. This Hezbollah it only works. Rabbi Ben Yaakov to say it's not considered like meishav aveda because you're scared to deny. We're talking about a real taina. Son has a real taina, according to Rabbi Ben Yaakov. So according to Tosfos says the reason why he's not believed in the migui is because he's migui the have a boy shazik. If he wanted to, he could have been quiet. It's because he's scared to deny the tainas body of the son. He's scared to deny it. So ultimately, we are talking about the taina of somebody else. In other words, we're not talking about mamish tainas atzmai. If it would be tainas atzmai, there would be a migui the have a boy shazik. That's basically the bottom line. We changed the gears on the Bryce, or we changed the case. If he would mamish be the one saying it, so then l'chayda we would. If it was only him, the only reason why we know about the case is purely from him, and there's no taina from the son. L'chayda even Rabbi Ben Yaakov would be moida, would admit they get away with it without making a shvua because it's miga they have boy shosik. So you could say miga for shvua. I made a mistake, at least in the way Tosfos explained. But now that we're talking about that there's a taina, the question is a taina worth anything? According to Rabbi Ben Yaakov, it is. But how does this fit with Rabbi Yitzchak? I'm not sure. How does this answer for Rabbi Yitzchak? Here it's mamash a meishav aveda. You're returning the lost item. I'll have to look more into this. All right, let's do just a few minutes of. We probably should stop soon, but let's do a few minutes of Yerushalmi. maybe like 5 minutes, 10 minutes. We'll start the mission Hanizok in the 5th Perek. Does everybody have it? The Yerushalmi?
Yeah, I have it.
Okay, so the Yerushalmi says, David, you're with us, or?
Yeah, yes, I'm here.
Okay, we're starting the Yerushalmi now. We're going to do a few minutes of Yerushalmi.
Yerushalmi?
Yeah,
And what daf?
we're in the 5th Perek. Daf Chof Daled.
Wait, just got the regular Yerushalmi to save time, so would you say a Perek Shishi?
Perek Chamishi.
Did you say Perek Shishi?
The 5th Perek, Perek Chamishi.
Shlishi.
No, the 5th.
What
5.
daf?
5. You see my hands?
I'm having trouble with the speaker. Yeah, what Perek is it? Oh, okay.
Okay, let's start. Hanizokin, Shamin Lahen Be'idis. Damages get idis. The Baal Choy Be'benis. Alone, you get Be'enis, you get intermediary, you get the medium, the average property. Ksuba Sisha Beziburis, the woman's Ksuba, she gets paid her debt with Ziburis. Shimon Gamliel Lemaf Ksuba Sisha Be'benis, he compares it to like a regular debt. I kind of like Shimon Gamliel's approach. Hanizokin Shamin Lahen Be'idis V'chulu. Says the Gemara, Kavachoymer Lehektish. Hektish for sure is going to get idis. The Gemara analyzes Kavachoymer Lehektish. Omer Rabba Papi Kumir Rabbi Yesi Manan Kayam. What are we talking about when we say Kavachoymer Lehektish? Hektish is going to get idis. Im Lehektish Nizokin. If you're going to say it's telling you that you collect damages, no. The thing in shared hektish. If your ox gored an ox of hektish, you're putter, you're exempt. It's only if you gore shorei your friends. If we're talking about a person who damaged hektish, that he's going to have to pay idis. Although the Tanur B'chiyah Nizak the head even Nizak the Gavoy, there is no such thing as damages. If you're mazik b'mezit, you're not going to have to pay meila. Meila is only b'shegek. It's only by mistake. If you do it on purpose, it's a different story. So Nizak is on purpose. So what are we talking about when we say hektish gets idis? Elakina non kamen. This is what we're talking about. You made yourself a debt to hektish of 100 money. Careful, I think he's sleeping. You might think to say that the hektish, your debt for hektish, makes you don't think first of all that the nizokin will take first. Hektish will take from idis. If you owe money to hektish's debt will be idis. That's a din. But if you owe money to hektish, you have to pay idis. You have to pay the best of the best. Taught nezek v'chatzi nezek nigbin min hamishubadim. Both full damages and half damages, right? What's like a half damage? If the shur is like a tam, for example, that it's the first time it damaged with its horn. Gored. Both of them will be able to collect from the chasam mishubadim property that you have sold to other people. So now the Gemara analyzes nicha nezek. Makes sense nezek because nezek is you pay the damage, so you're going to pay from the chasam mishubadim also. The problem is chatzi nezek le migufa mishalim l'cher chatzi nezek is only migufay up to the value of the ox that gored. So, for example, if you gored an ox worth $1,000. and your ox is only worth 200, you only pay up to the value of your ox of 200. I'll give an example in modern day. Like I rented a banged up minivan. If God forbid I smashed into a Porsche, from the din of Torah, maybe I would only be, well, I guess a person is different. A person is always a muad. The person is not a tam. Then theoretically, you would only be chayav. If it had the din of an ox, you'd only be chayav up to the value of your minivan, which is half the damage. You only chayav half the damage. Only if it's an ox, obviously. We're not talking about a person driving cars. Muad. It's a muad. You have to pay the full damage. Okay, so that's a bad example. So again, the question is, you pay me gufay, so what are we even talking about? It doesn't go to Nechasim Mishabadim. You take it from the ox itself. We could say we're talking about a shur tam that caused damages. Then the owner went and he sold it. We're saying it's meshubet. You can't sell it. Can't sell. Even if your ox he sells your ox, it still goes to the person you damaged because it already belongs to him. The case in Amrin Tiftar Shazak van Alav Milva. Let's say they had an agreement and he put it as a debt. Instead of paying Migufa, he only owes up to the value of Migufa, but he put it up as a debt. He says, I'll pay you the money in kach days. Even if he sells his property, that property from the time that Zak van Alav Milva is going to be you're going to be able to be goyfer from the Nechasim Mishabadim, I suppose, because it's still considered like something that has a kol. It has like people will know about it. If it's a milva, so you should only get from Beinit. It's not from the Idis, not from the best. This is a side question. We didn't deal with this. Even if it's a milva, even if he turns it into a milva, because it started off as a nezik, you take from Idis, you take from the best. Says the Gemara, Sadeu Pratam Meshubed. When it says Sadeu, Meitav Karmai, it's excluding Meshubed if the field was sold. Karma Prata Hektish. Karma is excluding Hektish. So obviously this needs Hezber, needs explanation. We just said that you take from the Nechasim Mishabadim, right? So the Gemara analyzes. Ma'anan Kam, what are we talking about? If we're talking about that Hizik, you damaged the field and only then did you sanctify your field. It says in the Mishnah, clearly, I'm turning the page in my Gemara, that if you're makdish a field worth 90 mana and you had a debt which was 100 mana, so that's it says in Maseches and Hiktim pretty much explains if you're makdish a field worth 90 mana and your debt was 100 mana, you add a dinner. In other words, you don't have the koyach to be makdish hektish. You just add one dinner. You basically add a dinner and then the field goes to whoever you owe it to. You can't do that. You can't be makdish a field if you have debts. Hektish is not going to be mafkia your chayvus, your debts. If we're talking about that, you first were makdish a field and only then did you cause the damages. In other words, hektish is not responsible for your damages. Hektish doesn't have to pay. So if it's already Kaddish, then why are we saying that? So what are we saying? Karme Prata Hektish. Okay, we're not dealing with the selling of the field yet. Rav Yudan Tiftar, B'Sher Shalektish, all the six stay headed. Let's say we're talking about a ox of hektish that damaged the soda of a hedit, and it says karamoi that only a regular person's karen will have to pay, and not a short of hektish. Karamoi is being memait karka of hektish, not the ox of hektish. You're bringing in apples. You're mixing apples and oranges. Your answer is not a good answer. This is what we're talking about. First, you gave yourself a debt for hektish. You owe 100 mana. And you're chayiv for hektish. and the only property you have to pay your debt is the keter, and then your ox went and damaged. Here in this case, because you weren't makdish the field, you just have a debt. So how do you do this? The answer is because you were makdish, you gave yourself the debt first. The debt, you gave yourself, sorry, you were makdish your the value first, the value of your kerem first. Hektish will supersede it. Hektish will supersede it. Hektish supersedes it. And same thing with selling your field. I guess if you sell your field before the damages happen, or maybe if you have a I mean, the same thing would apply with set if you sold your field first. If you sold your field first. If it's a regular milva though, then in a chanami, the nizakin will come before the regular milva. I'm not sure, it's unclear. If Moshe says the milva al peh, the nizakin will supersede it, even if the milva al peh came first. Okay, we'll just go one more sugi and then we'll stop for today. It says, Karmei prat Sadeu prat metaltalin. Your field excludes metaltalin, movable objects. Karmei prat l'roi kebemulsa. Karmei excludes if you only got the Yerusha afterwards, after the damages. You got it. You were roy to be having Yerusha, but you only got it after. Sadeu prat metaltalin. Behen delay boy metaltalin mishor rishona. You might think, let's say, you don't force the guy. You don't force the guy to take metaltalin. You could take karka. Basically, that's the pshat. You might think that he doesn't get metaltalin. He doesn't have to give metaltalin. No. If he wanted to, he could give metaltalin. It's up to the guy. He could give either or. He could give either or. What's going to be the main thing? If you're going to say karka is the main thing, right away they should take they should go. We find the chachamim. It's up to the guy. He could do whatever he wants. He could do whatever order he wants, because the chachamim start measuring his karka. So it's up to him to choose what he wants to do. Okay, that's the end of this sugya. We'll continue in Mitzvah Hashem tomorrow with the next sugya.
How did we end it? What were the words?
We're up to Miטv, Shadהו, Miטv Karma Shamazik, Div Rabbi Shmuel. We keep our mitzvah Miטv Karma Shanizik, which is the Maseches also we had in the Bavli.
Okay, thank you.
It's actually very long. All right, okay, take care, everybody.
Thank you, David.
Yes.